So I guess they're working on an English version of Kaksanse Million Arthur, which you're looking at right now. And let me just say, don't waste your time with it. As you can see, I've wasted way too much time with it. It's not even a game. To call it a game is insulting to games. I mean, even stupid games like Flappy Bird is better than this because it's basically just an evil trap to kind of trick you into, the whole gacha kompu thing. If you're not aware, gacha, I don't really know what the official term is, but gacha gacha is a sound that kind of is a rattling sound in Japanese, and so it's like one of those, those machines where you just kind of put coins in and you just kind of turn it and you get some crap. And if you want a certain type of crap from that machine, it's all random, so you just kind of have to keep paying it to try to get it, which you probably won't, and waste a whole bunch of money. Well, this is the electronic version of that, so you're not even getting anything real. Fortunately, you can play this game without having to pay for points, so you can use the gacha system. You can eventually get these tickets. But anyway, there's really no point in getting into it because it's just the dumbest game that kind of tries to take control of your life. And really, I don't even, like I said, I shouldn't even be calling it a game. And I've recently just kind of escaped from its evil clutches, so don't go near it. You're not going to have a good time. It's just going to be a stupid waste of time. And yeah, so you have been warned. Now actually in this video, I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about some kind of my random thoughts about Japanese gaming. Now Keiji Inafune in an interview recently, well, I didn't actually read the interview, just read some quotes, so I can be getting it totally wrong, but he had made some comments about how Japanese gaming has kind of been in decline and kind of lost its influence over the years. And obviously he knows way more about gaming than I ever will. I'm just a gamer who just buys shit and plays it, but I would have to say technically what he says is true. Now, Japanese console gaming has definitely lost some of its, major influence if you consider, the Nintendo or the Super Nintendo and the Genesis. All those consoles came from Japan, and, majority of the games for it came out of Japan as well. But I don't see it as Japan kind of losing its influence. I see it as, Japan being a small market and being a smaller country, and the Japanese video gaming market just kind of exploding way past that small island nation there. That means video game market is a huge industry now, several times way bigger than all of Hollywood. So really it's kind of inevitable that the market that we know traditionally as the console gaming market that we grew up in is going to kind of decline in influence relatively to the expanding gaming market. I would have to say that's just a relative comparison though, and I still feel like that Japanese gaming has been as strong or stronger than it has ever been before. And like I said, I don't know crap about this kind of thing, but I could just base it on just my observations and the fact that there's so many games coming out, Japanese games coming out now that more than ever before, and that are to me just as enjoyable, and in some cases a lot better than a lot of the games that kind of we look at with rose-tinted glasses filled with nostalgia. In my opinion, the Japanese game market is currently still way healthier than what the American game market is kind of turning into. As you know, big companies in America, they just love to merge and get bigger and bigger and make more money and reduce competition. Things like Time Warner Cable and, all of the internet providers and cable providers is just one example. And in gaming, what we have now is EA and Activision, and people are kind of hailing the indie game market as the source of innovation and kind of a way to get away from those large companies and, save franchises. But in Japan, yes, while you still have the big companies like Capcom and Square Enix and Koei and companies like that, there's a large mix of small and medium publishers that are still bigger than some guys in the garage or indie developers, and so they can still make a good polished game, just not tons of graphics or huge budgets. I'm talking about companies that many of us are probably already familiar with, such as Atlas. Well, they're owned by Sega now, but yeah, Atlas, Nippon Ichi Software. But I think because a lot of the games are published by the same companies in the United States here, primarily XSEED, NIS America, sometimes Axis, though not so much lately. that kind of people aren't really aware of all the various developers that are actually making these games, that are actually the ones deciding how they turn out. And so with all these small or medium developers such as Compile Heart, say what you will about Compile Heart and Idea Factory, but whatever, they make fun games. Gust, Furio, Kadokawa Games, Aqua Plus, CyberConnect 2, Flight Plan, Falcom. Well, most of us know, know about Falcom, but 5PB, Arc System Works, From Software, they're big now. Image APOC, Vanillaware, Spike Chunsoft. These are small and medium-sized companies that are just pumping out so many games that a fan such as myself can't even keep up. So when you have a day when game developers announce Arno Surge, Guided Fate Cross Thesis, Makai Shin Trillion, Hamatora, Look at the Smoking World, Atelier Sherry. So many games are coming out that it's just like, as a fan, you're like, this is great, but also, I can't even keep up. And so to say that the Japanese game market is declining, well, obviously these guys are at least breaking even to kind of keep coming out with these games. That really, I don't feel threatened at all. In fact, I think this, to me, right now is like the golden age of Japanese gaming. And I don't even know if I should call it a golden age, because as far as I know, things are just going to get better from here. Now, most of us don't speak or read Japanese, and so I think the perspective is very different, though things are certainly looking up for you guys as well, as, games like Conception 2 and finally, Trails in the Sky Second Chapter, and all these games are finally starting to be localized and coming out. Even games with real lackluster reviews, such as Mind Zero. I don't know why they're localizing that, but I guess they think they can kind of cash in with the Persona references. But anyway, but I think what most English-speaking gamers don't realize is that, they say things like, don't these companies want to make money? They're stupid, right? But I think most of these small or medium publishers, they don't have the, like I said, they're happy with kind of their small market target audience, and they're not looking to make millions in sales like Tomb Raider or Square Enix. And it's a lot of work to localize these titles, and sometimes they're just not interested. They don't really care about us, really. So I think that also contributes to kind of this false view that somehow Japanese gaming is in decline, or that just games just aren't as good as they used to be. I think there's also a weird contradiction too, where people are like, oh yeah, the SNES was a golden age, they had the best games like Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Chrono Trigger, but if you take the nostalgia glasses away, it's just a really good game. It's not like the holy grail of gaming. So like I said, I think there's this weird contradiction where people complain that RPGs or JRPGs are stale, that they don't try anything new, which is totally false. And yet on the other hand, people are kind of pining for the old days, and when a game like Bravely Default comes out, people are raving about it because it's really just like the old stuff. So I don't really know what's up with that. I thought Bravely Default was fun, but again, the mechanics, didn't seem that new or innovative to me. That's just me. But to kind of sum up my thoughts, number one, the Japanese gaming market is not declining. It just hasn't really grown. I mean, look at the number of PS4 sold. I mean, it's been the most successful launch of, any consoles in recent history in Japan. And yet it was, not even 500,000. Compared to the global sales, it's a small number. So the Japanese market just isn't that big and isn't growing. So again, to me, the Japanese gaming market is not in decline. It's just kind of has a limit to how big it can get, because Japan is a small country and it hasn't kept up with the growth of the rest of the industry. JRPGs are not stale. They're constantly creating new mechanics and trying new things, and when they try different things and innovate, like Lightning Returns, people bitch about it and want the same old crap. So really, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And finally, the concentration of small and medium-sized developers is way more healthier in Japan than it is in America or the US. And most of these companies don't really give two shits about us. So that's why we don't get their games, and that's why a lot of people don't know about them. And so really, it's just this invisible portion of the market that people are not aware of. So that's just kind of how my uninformed viewpoint is on the current Japanese market. It's the best it's ever been for me, and I'm having a blast, and I can barely keep up. So how do you feel Japanese games are doing lately? Let me know, in a comment or whatever, and I will see you next time. And don't play this game. I'm serious.